In this alternate 1530s, Cahokia still stands beside the Mississippi. Its earthen mounds rise above busy river landings, and its leaders govern through a network of allied towns rather than a vanished memory. Europe has not yet reached its heartland, but the world beyond the river is already changing. Historically, the city archaeologists call Cahokia declined over generations after its 12th century peak and was largely abandoned by around 1350. Drought, flooding, political conflict, and changing networks may all have mattered. No single cause fully explains its fate. What if Cahokia had changed course before those pressures became irreversible? This is a speculative timeline in which a reform coalition preserves a regional center, but must still confront epidemics, colonial violence, and the independent choices of neighboring nations. Around 1050 CE, a major urban center emerged near today's St. Louis. Archaeologists call it Cahokia, though its original name is unknown. Monumental mounds, plazas, and dense neighborhoods marked a scale rarely seen north of Mesoamerica. Cahokia was a hub of farming, ritual, craft production, and exchange. Its influence traveled through relationships with many distinct communities across the Mississippi watershed and beyond, not through a single uniform culture. At its height, around 1150, Cahokia may have held 10 to 20,000 people, depending on the estimate and the boundaries counted. It was among the largest known urban centers in North America, north of Mesoamerica. By the late 12th and 13th centuries, its population and influence were changing. Evidence points to a complicated mix of environmental shifts, social tensions, and changing exchange networks, problems no one council could solve by decree. Our divergence begins around 1200. Flood risk, seasonal drought, woodland loss, and growing inequality strain the city. In this timeline, the crisis creates an opening for a reform coalition, rather than a slow unraveling. At its center is Chief Akachi, a fictional leader created for this scenario. Akachi does not rule alone. He persuades clan leaders, ritual authorities, and farming communities that survival requires shared limits on land use, storage, and settlement expansion. This is the point where the timeline diverges. The reforms favored dispersed satellite settlements, protected woodlands, raised food stores, and seasonal relocation away from the most flood-prone ground. They reduce risk without pretending to control the Mississippi or the climate. A fictional council of stewards coordinates seed reserves, timber access, flood warnings, and aid between communities. It has authority only because participating groups see value in it, and its decisions remain contested. The changes do not make Cahokia safe. They slow some environmental damage and prevent a sudden political break. But nearby communities remain wary of a stronger river center and resist any demand that threatens their autonomy. Over the next generation, Cahokia becomes the center of a looser river confederacy. Fictional steward alliances link some neighboring communities through trade, shared storage, and mutual defense, while others remain independent or decline to participate. That network has costs. Border disputes and local raids still occur, forcing communities to maintain watchposts and defensive works. Cahokia's influence depends as much on diplomacy as on the ability to protect traffic along the river. Over the following century, the Confederacy invests in raised storage, portages, river landings, and floodplain maintenance, rather than fictional grand canals. These public works make food and trade more resilient, but require constant labor and negotiation. By 1420, the fictional Great Peace of the Mounds establishes seasonal access rules, safe conduct for traders, and mediation between participating towns. It recognizes cooperation, not Cahokia's permanent dominance over every neighbor. In the decades that follow, the Mississippi becomes the Confederacy's lifeline. Canoe crews connect inland towns to Great Lakes and Gulf Coast networks, carrying goods, news, and obligations farther than any one settlement can manage alone. After 1500, reports from southern trading partners bring unsettling news, foreign ships in the Caribbean, violent raids, and illnesses moving ahead of direct contact. The reports are incomplete, but they encourage Cahokian leaders to prepare for disruptions they do not yet understand. By the early 16th century, Spanish colonization of the Caribbean is already underway. Its consequences move through coastal and inland networks long before a European force reaches the upper Mississippi Valley. By the 1530s, traders carry stories north of strange weapons, captive-taking raids, and communities weakened by new illnesses. Cahokia cannot verify every rumor, but its councils begin limiting travel during outbreaks and enlarging grain reserves. In 1541, Hernando de Soto's expedition reaches the Mississippi River. In this timeline, its northward movement meets a confederacy that can assemble scouts, interpreters, and guarded river crossings instead of isolated settlements. Early encounters still turn violent in places. Cahokian defenders use river knowledge, earthworks, and dispersed ambush positions to resist a small Spanish detachment, while leaders try to avoid a battle that would expose whole towns. The deepest danger is disease. Epidemic illnesses introduced through expanding contact spread unevenly through the Confederacy, killing many people and disrupting families, leadership, food production, and diplomacy. Strong institutions can organize aid. They cannot make communities immune. The Council of Stewards survives only by decentralizing further. It moves food, supports orphaned households, temporarily restricts gatherings, and lets some towns make their own choices. Cahokia endures as a damaged network, not an untouched capital. After the first epidemics, the Confederacy adopts a fictional strategic adaptation policy, controlled foreign trade, reinforced river crossings, repair workshops, and political alliances with communities that choose cooperation. It adapts without assuming European tools alone will solve its crisis. Through Great Lakes and St. Lawrence exchange networks, European iron goods reach some Cahokian partners before direct French relations become regular. These tools are valuable, but scarce, and their distribution becomes another source of political tension. By the early 17th century, the Confederacy has not returned to its pre-epidemic population. It has reorganized around smaller towns, trained river patrols, and a mix of inherited weapons and limited imported metal goods. When a fictional Spanish reconnaissance party probes upriver around 1610, it faces a prepared but cautious coalition. Cahokian leaders combine fortified crossings, controlled talks, and limited resistance to make further penetration costly rather than seek a decisive conquest. By the 1630s, this surviving network may call itself the Grand Confederacy of the Mounds, a fictional name for a polity built from allied towns, not a single recovered empire. European entry into the Mississippi Valley is slowed, but never fully controlled. After French exploration of the Mississippi in the late 17th century, Cahokian and French representatives negotiate a fictional Four Rivers Agreement. It allows limited trade and travel, while recognizing that access to the river depends on continuing local consent. Over the next generation, the Confederacy regulates selected trading landings and keeps its own river patrols. This provides leverage, but dependence on European goods and shifting alliances also gives outside powers influence inside the network. By the mid-18th century, towns in the Confederacy blend imported materials with local building and ritual traditions. Recovery remains uneven. Some communities prosper through trade, while others relocate or reject closer ties with Europeans. As diplomacy grows more complex, some councils use a fictional mound ledger tradition, symbolic wooden and bark records, paired with oral custodians and bilingual interpreters. It improves administration without inventing a fully modern written bureaucracy. By the late 18th century, British and Spanish colonial pressure forces the Confederacy to choose alliances carefully. Its leaders must weigh trade access, migration, military risk, and the wishes of communities that do not share identical interests. The same river wealth that protects the Confederacy makes its territory a target. By the early 19th century, survival depends less on monumental power than on diplomacy, selective resistance, and the ability to move people and food before a crisis becomes irreversible. In this alternate North America, indigenous nations remain decisive political actors. A mid-19th century gathering could bring Cahokian representatives, neighboring nations, and European-descended governments together as negotiators, rather than as a single people facing one inevitable colonial fate. The continent would still be contested. Independent indigenous polities, settler states, commercial companies, and shifting alliances would all shape its future. The difference is not a simple reversal of history, but more centers of power able to make choices. Cahokia's survival would not erase disease, conflict, or colonial ambition. It could preserve institutions and alliances long enough to make the Mississippi Valley a different kind of political world. This has been Historic's Vault. More alternate histories are coming.